One day in 1975, suddenly and without explanation, a one-armed Swiss farmer named Edward Billy Meier jumped on his moped and disappeared into the woods outside his village. He returned saying that he had met extraterrestrials and had pictures to prove it. The photographs showed spaceships hovering in the air, and Meier was to take hundreds more photos during his alleged meetings with ETs over the next 5 years. Were the photographs fake, part of an elaborate hoax, or was Billy Meier really in contact with visitors from beyond?
There's a lot of controversy growing around this case, mostly against it. I was willing to take it because of the photographs. I was willing to get involved in it. I'd been exchanging photographs with Lou Zinstag for a number of years. Lou Zinstag lived in Basel, Switzerland. She was a niece of Carl Jung, one of the earlier UFO researchers. She published the first journal on UFOs in Europe, in German, out of Basel. And this event, the first events happened in her own backyard. It didn't take long before she heard about them, within a few months. And she went to see Mr. Meier at his home in Hinwil at the time, and he explained how it started, and he showed her the pictures, gave her copies of a dozen of them. And she called me after she got home from that, and she said that she had just acquired a few pictures that she thought I really ought to get a look at, that they were uniquely different because of their extreme sharpness and clarity. And she said, she agreed that usually means that they're suspect, that they're done in a laboratory. But she said, I've been to this man's house. He has no laboratory. He lives in a chicken house with a dirt floor. He doesn't have any money at all. He works as a security guard for a place to live. He gets a small pension from the Swiss government, barely enough to feed his family. Neighbors provide the film for his camera since he took the first pictures. He uses a broken camera that was tossed out by somebody else. She said the lens is jammed just short of infinity. And she said, he has taken these most remarkable pictures. And she said, I'm coming to the States with Timothy Good in another month or so. And she said, if you're going to be there, she said, we'll come by Tucson and I'll show you the pictures. They were, in fact, the best ones I had ever seen up to this time. They were the sharpest, clearest, most beautiful UFO pictures. I decided I've got to go look him in the eye and see for myself how he's doing this. It all started with him when he had been to a metaphysical discussion group where they discussed the Rudive and Constantine experiments in spirit voices. Meier decided to try this, and he took a tape recorder, which was also a cast-off of somebody else's, and he put a tape in it, and put it in his bedroom, closed the doors and left it, wound it back and tried to listen to it. Couldn't hear anything. He did it a second time. Nothing happened. He decided to give it one more try, and then he believed that they were hoaxing the whole thing. So this time, when he wound it back, right at the beginning, when the tape started out, the tape said, Edward, take your camera and go outside. He turned the tape recorder off, picked up his camera, went out and stood outside with it. Nothing was happening. Looked over at his moped, standing on his kickstand there, and decided to get on it. He pushed it, got the motor going, rode down the road, and he rode for, half an hour, just making turns and following his nose, just idly waiting for something to happen. And he ended up in the Frecht Nature Preserve, south of Hinwil. It's a forest game preserve. He heard a humming, whining sound above him, and looking up, he saw a silvery disc-shaped object come out of a cloud and go back into another cloud. And the sound stopped. Then he heard it again, and it came out of the cloud again, and he saw it once more, and it went back in the clouds, and the noise stopped. Then he heard it a third time, and this time it came out and made a deliberate gliding circle, slow gliding circle, down or around over the tops of the forest trees and right down to the meadow where he was standing, and landed in the meadow a few hundred feet from him.
More of the incredible Billy Meier story when we return. Welcome back. We continue now with the incredible Billy Meier story.
This time it came out and made a deliberate gliding circle, slow gliding circle down or around over the tops of the forest trees and right down to the meadow where he was standing and landed in the meadow a few hundred feet from him. He started running towards it with his camera. He took several pictures of it in its descent. And he started running forward with his camera, and the closer he got, the more he ran into a resistance. He said the resistance felt like standing in a stream with a swift current. And he said the closer I got, the stronger the current got, until I reached a point where I couldn't go any further against the current, and I just sat down on the ground and waited. And then a being came out from behind the craft walking towards him, and he came up to him, and together they walked a few feet back and sat down on the grass, and she identified herself. She said, "You may call me Semyasi." She said, "I'm not from your system here." But she said, "I have a very important message for you, and I want you to remember very carefully." And he said, "I have no recorder or no notebook or pencil to take any notes. How can I record? How can I remember it carefully?" And she said, "Listen closely, and I'll help you to remember it." That's how it all started. And that message was the message pertaining to the decay of our ionosphere caused by industrial gases. And she explained to him that they'd come to him in a neutral country, hoping that the neutral country would take a position on saving the atmosphere, because neither of the Cold War powers were inclined to do so. They were the ones that were doing the exploiting. And they hoped that his government would take a neutral position and seek to stop the action. He said, "I don't have any contact with the government. I can't do anything for you. Why don't you go to them?" And then she told him a very interesting thing. She said, "We have gone to one of your presidents." You know, Switzerland has a presidential council. They elect 5 presidents at a time, and the chairmanship rotates. Every few months they rotate the presidency, the chairmanship of the president's council. She said, we have approached one of your presidents. He didn't tell his wife. He didn't tell any of his colleagues. He has told nobody, and he's keeping the secret entirely to himself, afraid of the consequences of revealing it. And she said, "That's not doing any good." So she said, she said, "The reason we're posing the ships to allow you to take such good pictures is so that somebody will want to know who are they, where are they from, and what do they want. And we want your government to take this position. And here is the message I want you to take down for them." And then she dictated it. And when he got home from that meeting, he sat down in his little bedroom and started to write the message. And then it came through automatic. He was trying to remember what they said when it came through automatically in longhand, and he wrote it rapidly, faster than he can write normally, under some kind of control. And he wrote 15 or 20 pages full, and then it stopped. And he had the first message. And then when he looked at it, he realized that he has gotten the entire communication word by word. So the next time he saw her, she came back, he asked her how they did that, and she said, "It's a mechanical device. We have a device that records not only the conversation but the thought processes as well." And she said that can be tuned to transmit it back to you. And she said that's what we did. As far as I could tell, you know, from looking at it, there probably were 3 major objectives for Semyasi and her team. The first one, or one of them, and I don't know the order of priority, seemed to be her attempt to get Switzerland to take the lead in trying to head off the destruction of the ionosphere by industrial gases, by stopping the industrial processes that were producing the gases that were destroying the ionosphere. A second one had something to do with the North Sea, because several times in Meier's contact she was called away urgently and had to break off the contact in the middle of it, send him back to the ground and race off to head off something that was happening in the North Sea area. We never knew for sure what that was. She told him it was no business of his to know anything about it anyway, and she couldn't discuss any of it with him. But we suspected that she was trying to head off the contamination of the bottom of the North Sea by Russian atomic waste dumping. And I don't know how they were doing. They did have contacts in Russia. So that may have been related. The third objective had something to do with something going on in the Yugoslav mountains, and she never would tell him what that was either. And to this day, we don't know what those objectives were. But when they all 3 failed, she and her team went on to other projects in another solar system in the end of 1982.
No single piece of evidence is conclusive, but it can provide a clue. The challenge is to keep an open mind. Thanks for joining us, and see you next week from Beyond.